In 1736 Philadelphia, Benjamin Franklin's early political career faced a significant threat from a powerful and highly influential member of the General Assembly. This adversary was wealthy, highly educated, and openly hostile, having recently delivered a public speech aimed at blocking Franklin's nomination. Franklin realized that conventional appeasement, such as flattery or gifts, would only signal vulnerability and invite further contempt from a rival of the stature. He chose a counterintuitive course of action, sending a polite note that requested a small favor instead of offering one. Franklin asked to borrow an exceptionally rare and valuable book from the legislator's private library for a few days. The rival sent the book immediately. When they next met in the assembly, the man approached Franklin with new civility, eventually forming a collaborative friendship that lasted for the rest of his life. This historical turning point revealed a behavioral truth that contradicts standard assumptions about professional conflict resolution. Generating authentic goodwill from a hostile counterpart requires the strategic extraction of a favor. Professionals in the United States, United Kingdom, and Australia frequently encounter this type of hostility from colleagues or competitors. The instinctive reaction is to try and win over the opponent through unsolicited help, gifts, or excessive praise. Behavioral science shows that this traditional approach often triggers a defense mechanism known as psychological reactance. Receiving an unprompted favor from a perceived rival causes the recipient to immediately search for an ulterior motive. The recipient reframes the gesture as an insincere maneuver intended to manipulate or schmooze. This creates a relational imbalance that leaves the solicitor isolated and the target more defensive than before. Unearned gifts signal a hidden agenda, reinforcing defensive boundaries rather than building rapport. Solving this interpersonal deadlock requires shifting the psychological burden of attitude adjustment onto the target. This is achieved through the Ben Franklin effect, asking the adversary for a small, manageable favor. Cognitive dissonance theory explains this. Human beings experience mental discomfort when beliefs and actions conflict. Helping someone you dislike creates acute discomfort, as your brain reconciles invested effort with negative opinions. Because helping cannot be undone, the brain alters its attitude to match the behavior. In relationships that are merely neutral or cold, a different mechanism called self-perception theory takes over. Here, the individual acts as an objective observer of their own conduct to determine how they feel about others. When they lend resources or time, the observer brain deduces that it must value the person who requested the help. The brain builds a positive affinity for another person as a direct consequence of providing them with help. This internal rewiring is supported by measurable laboratory data. In a 1969 study by Jecker and Landy, volunteers won cash prizes in a contest run by a researcher who acted in a disagreeable manner. Participants were divided into 3 groups and asked to return winnings under different conditions. Those asked by a secretary to return the money continued to view the researcher negatively. However, when the researcher asked for a direct personal favor, his likability rating spiked significantly. Complying with an institutional demand through a third party leaves personal perceptions intact, while a direct request forces a change in attitude. Researcher Yu Nia confirmed this in 2015 by comparing direct favor requests to spontaneous, unprompted help. The study found that spontaneous help failed to build closeness. Interpersonal liking only increased when the individual was explicitly asked for help. This data suggests that while spontaneous help fails to move the needle, a direct personal favor request triggers a measurable shift in interpersonal liking. Misapplying this effect can lead to the negative Ben Franklin effect. If a request is perceived as too costly or demanding, the target will view you as exploitative, causing a permanent breakdown in the relationship. Success depends on making the favor minimal and calibrating it to bypass specific cultural defenses. In the United States, corporate professionals are highly suspicious of transactional maneuvers or schmoozing. Asking for expert feedback or a specific advice referral bypasses the suspicion by tapping into the American desire for professional validation. The United Kingdom operates with a different set of norms, defined by social reserve and indirect communication. To avoid creating social friction, favors in the UK should be low imposition and easily deniable, such as a quick sanity check on a minor project. In Australia, the culture is defined by egalitarianism and a skepticism toward anyone who appears self-important. The most effective approach here is a self-deprecating, informal request for practical, down-to-earth assistance. The success of a favor request depends on how effectively it bypasses the specific cultural anxieties of the target. Many professionals believe that projecting an image of independent self-sufficiency is the best way to earn respect. In reality, extreme self-sufficiency often isolates you, leaving professional relationships cold and stagnant. Authentic connection is built by acknowledging the vulnerability of shared human needs. The exchange of small favors acts as a bridge, turning adversaries into allies. Asking for help is a mathematically proven tool for building professional trust. To master more micro-persuasion techniques and view high-stakes behavioral case studies,